Hello, 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 and welcome to the Intelligentleman show. I am your host, Milt Walker. Today, I just wanted to kind of vibe out with you guys and just, you know, just talk a little bit about some spiritual matters, some of my recent experiences, and some of the things that's been going on in my life um, with you know, since my birthday, which was the 22nd of December. And, a lot of things have happened since then. And, I've had some spiritual revelations about myself and just, where I'm going in in this life, right? Because as we talked about in a lot of our podcast before, part of being spiritual or having a spiritual side is knowing that, that is the eternal and this is temporary, right? So we know that the physical plane is temporary, physics tells you that. I mean, everything has an expiration date, as they say, you know. But it's one of those things where I found myself kind of looking at life and looking at the things that I wanted out of life and the things that I wanted to bring to the world. Um, so it caused me to start looking inward, and I started as I do routinely, but this time I decided that I was gonna do a very widespread, um, you know, kind of cleansing. I did some research and found out that cleansing during the full moon was a good thing and a good time to do that because of the healing powers of the moon, right, from the spiritual sense. And so a friend of mine actually turned me on to an app that has like guided meditation. And so I was looking at it and it had like a full moon meditation to it, which I thought was pretty dope because it was like right on time, right? And so I said, okay, yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do this. And so I decided that I was, and I did. Um, but for a minute, let me step back. Let me go back and kind of talk about from my birthday because that was around Christmas time. When the full moon came. I think it was like 26, 27, somewhere around in there. But but before that, I had said to myself, okay, let's go ahead and make your plans for your business, for yourself, for your personal life going into 2021, right? Um, just using that particular time frame as a point of reference for me. That's what that is for me, and so that's what I decided to do, and I was going to do that, and so I did. I wrote down all my plans, different little points inside of the plan of what I wanted to do, and it was pretty thorough. I wrote it down um, pretty thoroughly, and I've been wanting to kind of restructure the way that I do certain things. As you can probably tell from the podcast, you know, I have a very high inclination to community issues and wanting to do positive things in the community, even if it is just my voice, even if it is just me talking about issues or talking about, you know, different, topics that that we that we need to talk about, right? you know, I wanted to wait until the stream kind of caught back up. I was having some issues with that, but yeah. So you know, I wanted to kind of get a better um, understanding and a clearer vision and goal as to what I wanted to do in that arena and all of the things, because I've had a lot of visions, in the past. Part of my vision is to teach, computer science skills to kids, um, to help economically empower our communities, um, to be more self sufficient when it comes to you know um, our economic empowerment, right? Um, and so that's always been a part of my plan, and it's always been a vision of mine, and it's always been bigger than what I could even, you know, it's always been bigger than what I could even, verbalize a lot of times within myself, because, you know, it's it's something that's near and dear to me. I had that vision a long time ago, um, and even with me moving away and moving back, um, you know, I always said that I wanted to start it in my hometown. I always wanted to start doing these grassroots community efforts in my hometown. What's up, Tracy? Good evening, Queen, and Happy New Year to you too. Uh, you know, so blessed to be in this new year. I always love your energy, Tracy. You always been great. I love you so much. Hope everything's going well with you and the fam. Hope my boy Ian's doing good with his coding and everything. That's one of my little bros. He's getting into the technology scene a lot, and I'm really proud of him. And thank you, Tracy, for all that you do for everyone. But yeah, so it's always been part of my vision to to bring these skills that I've learned myself back to my community, because that's where I started at. That's where I started at. I started there, and I used to do it for free. I used to do it just because I love to do it, and I used to do it just because it was something that nobody really knew how to do, and I could do it, and so I was just like, hey, well, I'll do it for you. And so I just kind of put myself in that position, and people would just call on me to do different things, and again, and if you haven't seen my or heard my podcast about when I talked about that a little bit, long story short, that's where I kind of learned a little bit about. That's where I first started learning about entrepreneurship and marketable skills, and being able to provide value to people, so that you can so that you can get paid for doing it, right? Get paid for doing things that you love, So it was really dope. And maybe I'll talk about that in a little more detail, but I want to kind of stay away from that a little bit on this one, and so as I'm writing down my plans and everything's just becoming clear to me, I'm getting clarity. I'm starting to feel where I'm going, and I start to see it start to take shape and take form in my mind, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so now this has got to start looking a certain way, because of the things and the opportunities that I want to come to me. I want to still be of service. I still want to help people. I still want to be in technology, and so I'm just kind of letting those ideas flow through me, and it was an amazing experience. Now that was on my birthday. So as we progressed, and I'm still in my mind, I still feel a little cloudy, because I know, and I've shared a little bit about this through my mental health series. I still know that I have things that I have to work on within myself. And I know some of those things are really just kind of dealing with me letting go of certain things, right? And just not letting things block my path towards my spiritual evolution. And so, I took that opportunity again. I meditated during the full moon. I followed the guided meditation, and y'all should go check it out. It's an app. It's called Eternal Sunshine, and it's by Londrell, which is a brother. He does like meditation music, guided meditations, and all types of stuff. I first learned about him on Spotify, and so but he's got an app now, and I'm not sure if it's just his app, but I know that he does most of the guided meditations. And so this was a full moon meditation. So I'm going through the meditation, and it's saying that you should release, all of these negative feelings about yourself, fear, insecurity, doubt, and nothing negative, outside of that, just more so just kind of looking at things, from the standpoint of, not really following through with the positive thought, right? That's how I like to look at it. And so, as I'm going through it and it's telling you, let go of all of this, and it's taking you through all your chakra points and making you, you're breathing and you bringing your energy to the chakra point, releasing, and then, drawing in the healing energy of the moon, and I'm visualizing, I'm visualizing all of this, I'm visualizing all of this in my mind, in my third eye, in my mind's eye. I'm visualizing all of this happening to me, and so I went through the whole routine. Right. That's right, Tracy. I went through the whole routine, and afterwards, I felt peaceful. I felt lighter, because I felt like I did release all of these things, right? And it was a great feeling. It was a beautiful feeling. And I just started, just kind of letting it just kind of sink in, soak in, and letting the healing aura just kind of wash over my body. And I ended up falling asleep. Long story short, I ended up falling asleep and waking up, and it was the middle of the night. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I just fell asleep, and I'm waking up in the middle of the night. But as I woke up, I was drawn to start thinking about what I had just done and where I was spiritually, right? And I did. I started thinking about it, and I was like, wow. I was like, hey, I can actually feel that I don't feel blocked anymore. I don't feel like I'm holding myself back anymore. You know what I mean? And it was a great feeling. It was a feeling of freedom. And so as the night progressed, I didn't end up going back to sleep until, about 5:00. And, it was a very interesting experience, because I started, how could I say this? I started feeling the manifestation, right? Because again, I had already wrote down my plans. I had already thought about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do and who I was, right? But by releasing all of those, it kind of affirmed who I felt like I was, right? I knew that my whole goal as a being of light was to bring that light to the world. That's my goal. I've always said, like, I want to bring positivity to the world. I really don't care how I do it, but that it has to be the foundation for me. So I started realigning myself back. Like I said, that night, I started thinking about all of the things that I do and how I do things. And I was like, well, you know what? I need to adjust this. I need to realign this. I need to, rethink this. I need to come back into this, and I need to start pushing this. And so, I kind of sunk into my plans, right? And I got rooted into it, and which is a very powerful concept, because in order for your spiritual side to grow, your lower has to be rooted. It has to be at a point and grounded, right? They call it grounded. You have to be grounded to the point where you don't feel like you have to do all of that extra. I like to say extra, like, because when we talked about ego and spirit, you know, the ego will have you think you need to do all these extra things to ensure your success, to ensure your love, to ensure your positivity, to ensure your strength and stuff like this, and you don't. It's all really a part of you already, and which was a very powerful thing for me to realize. And it's, and as I told one of my friends, I was like, it wasn't really me realizing that, it was me remembering this, right? It felt like I remembered it, like I always knew this, but I was remembering my own power, and so that's when the awakening happened for me. Now that's interesting within itself, right? You know, I felt the healing, I felt the release, I felt the alignment with the universe, with my true self, right? With my spiritual self, and so after that, every day since then, it's been one manifestation after another. And the thought is this: all of the things that you want, whether you believe, you pray and you ask for them and you get them, or whether you meditate, or whether you manifest, however you want to look at it, right? Because it all comes from the source, which is the ultimate source of all good, right? It's already there. It's already there for you, right? It's already there for you. So by that being already there for you, a lot of times we are the ones in the way. We're in the way of ourselves, whether it's through our doubts, our fears, our insecurities, and you know, all of these things that keep us back from realizing that, hey, you know, this is me. I am a part of the well-being vibration. It's a part of me. It's for me. It's a part of me. And so why would I doubt that, or why would I believe that I'm not worthy of these things? Yes, Pam. Visualization is powerful. It's very powerful, you know, and which is a key point that I want to point out. I'm glad you said that. In order to manifest, you have to believe in it before it happens, before you see it. Faith, right? Just like prayer. You have to believe in it before you see it. You have to have faith, right? So in order for you to get out of your own way, you have to have faith. And even if that's in yourself, right? You have to have faith in yourself, knowing that I deserve all of this. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to live in abundance. I deserve for, you know, to be treated in a very positive way, right? And so knowing that you believe this and knowing that that is a part of you already, then it takes the worry away. So it takes the stress. So you're not sitting there worried about, wow, well, how are we gonna do? It's well, you know what? I can fully live in this moment with the knowledge and the faith to know that everything that is for me is going to come to me when I'm ready. So I don't have to worry about that part. I have to worry about that part. The only thing I have to worry about, or not really worry about, but the only thing I have to make sure that I put my focus and attention on is my own spiritual development. That's it. Part of that spiritual development is your physical development, right? Because as we talked about in another podcast, In order for you to really experience life to the fullest, you have to be healthy, right? You have to have all these, not necessarily have a whole bunch of material things, but you want to live in comfort and be able to do what it is that you want to do to cultivate your spiritual being, right? So there's nothing wrong with working. There's nothing wrong. All of those things, everything in existence has a spiritual meaning or lesson to it. So there's nothing that really doesn't give you, even if it's a lesson of knowing what not to do, it's still a lesson, right? And so, once you can focus on that, then all of the things that are supposed to come to you, it comes to you. And another way of thinking about that is it helps you to prepare the groundwork for those things to enter into your life, right? For abundance to become a part of your life, right? Because you just being in abundance but not having discipline is not going to work. Why? Because you're going to lose it all. You're going to lose it, and then you're going to be right back. Maybe in a worse space, especially mentally, than you were before, right? So if you have that resilience and the ability to live good under any circumstances, I can be a good person under any circumstance. My circumstance does not determine whether or not I'm going to be a good person. So if that's the case, then I can receive or I can have nothing, and I can still be the same person. I can still be a positive person. Examples, the Dalai Lama, right? Or Mother Teresa. These are examples of people who lived and didn't own pretty much anything. They lived off the kindness of others, but they spread more kindness than they received. Right? So what does that mean? That means that a lot of these things that we put so much emphasis on, it's okay, but it's not what's important. You can't put it up on a pedestal higher than the things that are important. Because once you do that, then you have essentially flipped it, it's not in order. It's not in order of the way that things should be. As my friend Tracy would say, put God first. You put God first, right? If you put God first, everything else flows from that. Because that's the source. Right? Abundance and discipline go hand in hand. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Abundance and discipline go hand in hand. Right? There's another saying that they say, right? A fool and his money will soon part. Right? A fool and his money will soon part. Because somebody going to, either trick you out of it or you just going to squander it, But I take that a step further too. A fool thinks money is the way that he should live his life. Like, you think that you live your life for the material aspect. That's not how you should live your life. Some of the happiest people you know about in history didn't have anything. Purposely. You know what I mean? They didn't have anything. I remember thinking, I always said to myself, I always want a love that could last through anything. Whether we sleeping in a cardboard box or whether we living in a mansion. I want that same love from my woman, right? What does that mean? Does that mean I want to go live in a cardboard box? No. That's not what that means. It means that the circumstance doesn't determine the value. It doesn't. It's not going to determine the value. I'm going to love you no matter what. We can go through the storm. We can start dancing in the rain if you want to, But I'm still going to be the same, whether I have or whether I have not, which is supposed to be the meaning of the vows, right? When people take the vows, when they get married, for better or worse, through sickness and health, you know. But again, does that mean that you should just use the vows as an excuse not to? Absolutely not. You should always strive to be better, especially as a man. Especially as a man, you should always strive to be better. It's important because it keeps you focused. It keeps you focused. It keeps you focused on what's important. Because not only does that mean that you're striving to be better, a better provider, a better protector, it means that you're going to strive to be a better father, a better husband, a better friend, a better leader, right? It's more elements to a man than just providing and protecting, There's a lot more elements to a man than that, And so you have to find some kind of balance. Because if you're always just working, or if you're always just, concerned with safety, then if you're always concerned with safety, then you're not really living your life, right? If you're always concerned with working, then you're not living your life. You're not spending time with those who mean the most to you. Which is, it's no trade-off. There's no comparison to that. You can't compare the two. And again, having people who understand this and who live by this, you can move like that. You can move like that, because you always know. And then again, tapping back into source and alignment with the source, you're always going to be taken care of. So that's, what are we worried about, right? Not worried about nothing, and just being content, being grateful. Less content, but more grateful for what truly matters, and having that in your life and being able to share that with somebody, right? Because that's what's going to last. That's the other stuff will go away. They say you can't take it with you, right? You're not going to have it when you leave here, but what you put out in love to other people and service to other people, well, we see that all the time. People still talking about what people have done in service, right? So not only does it last in the memories of people, but it's a real lasting, it's like a ripple effect. It's an actual energy that goes out, and that's out there. Energy, as we know, never dies. It never dies. So it's always out there. Once you put that energy out there, it's there. So, that's how you immortalize yourself, and through your children, right? And if you're able to spend a lot of time with your children and to teach them what's important, to pass that on to the next generation, which is what we got to do more as a community, right? Then that enables them to carry on that message, to make even better people out of their children, right? And eventually, you got a society full of people who are focused on spiritual matters, like it was. See, that's the difference between what we have today and what we had by our ancestors in ancient times. They were spiritual people. So you could do a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? You could do a whole lot more in a spiritual society than you could in this type of society that you have now, right? Because what happens? People take advantage because they're not spiritually aligned. So they start taking advantage of people, whether they're, it wouldn't be a thing to partake in drinking and, all this kind of stuff, and be in a society that valued morals and people, right? And the spirit over the materials, right? Because if you probably wouldn't, but if you did end up, feeling a little too good, you might wake up in a bed of petals. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody would take advantage of you because everybody would be, aligned with doing what's right and not all this other stuff. Take a picture and send it out, or whatever, because it gets worse. People do worse things than that. But so kind of getting back to the topic. So for me, that was an eye opener, right? Because it made me aware that it affirmed for me. It affirmed and it strengthened my resolve in what I was doing and where I'm going. Which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing because when you know that you're having an impact, even if you don't see it directly, it feels better. And there's nothing wrong with feeling good. You're supposed to feel good about your life. You're supposed to be like, hey, I wanted to do this and for people because I felt good about that. I felt good about helping people, and every day I can feel good because that's where I am. I'm in line. I'm in alignment with who I am. Right. I was going to share some other stuff with you. You gotta like being in sync with the universe, right? The universe wants you to grow. It's life, right? Life happened. It's happening. The universe wants you to be here and wants you to have things and wants you to experience life in the best way possible, right? And so I believe that well-being is for everybody, not just me, but especially for me, but not just me, for everybody, right? But I know it's for me too. I know it's for me. So again, going back to what we was talking about, that puts your mind at ease. You don't have to rush. You don't have to feel like, I got to get this done by this. No. This is the way I like to think about that. If you're spiritual, what is spiritual? Spiritual is eternal. What is eternity? Eternity is timeless. So to become timeless is to become spiritual. When you're not worried about time, time is not a factor. That raises you above time, right? And so I'm not looking at it in that, it's also, I'll put it to you, in a lot of people look at it when they talk about wealth building, right? Building wealth. They don't plan to build wealth in one generation. They plan it out over many generations, right? See, that's a timeless type of thought process. When you're living in abundance, if you truly believe and you're living in abundance, then there is no lack. You don't lack anything. And it's over what we would consider a long period of time, right? If we looked at it from a time perspective. But it's actually all the same, because it's well-being, it's wealth, it's different. I want my grandchildren's children to be straight, right? So I'm not just thinking about where I am right now, how fast can I get from point A to point B. I'm thinking about what's going to last, and how can I position myself now to make that happen. Not just make something happen right now. Not to say that you can't do that, because that's good. I mean, it's good for you to set, like they say, like short-term goals, long-term goals, so on and so forth, right? But your overall vision has to be greater than that. Remember, we're talking about spiritual sight. So we're talking about past all of that. You have to have that timeless sense that, this is immaterial. What's important is because we can all grow, we can all evolve, we can all be better. That's a ever, inclining goal. Meaning there is no end to it, right? There's no end. You can always become better. So no one should ever feel like, oh, well, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, you can be, but you can go further. You can do more, which brings me back to one of my last points. You have to take care of yourself, though. You really have to take care of yourself, because it's very important for you to make the maximum use of all of the resources that you have, including time, right? Because even though you're eternal, your time in the physical plane is not. So you only have a short amount of time to put in place. I like to say, play checkers and not chess. You always have a finite number of moves before the game is over. And so position yourself for the best position for not only you, but your people, right? If you can do that, then, which is and I'll put this in perspective too. We always talk about the people and the figures who get the people who get the most credit are the people who are there when the change happens. But we don't think about and talk about all of those years and periods in between the change that people had to make things happen to carry on. We do kind of when we start talking about carrying on the torch, right? But I'm just putting it in perspective for people. When you think about it, it's the sum of the whole and not one person that makes these things happen, right? Because if it wasn't for this person, this wouldn't have happened. That made it this, where this could happen, where this could happen, And when you start thinking about it strategically like that, you can plan yourself in that way and say, well, if I do this and I do this and I do this, then it'd be great if I see this happen. But if I don't, I know I set it up. I know I set up the move. All they got to do is push the piece, and it's game over, right? So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to, for 2021, I've already stated in my other podcast that, I'm practicing Kwanzaa 365 this year. So I've already pushed out and done a lot of things and, connecting a lot of people. And I'm so excited about the things that we got coming up in the future. I mean, dreams and visions manifesting, and not just for me, like it's for people, like for everybody, like everybody around me. They're a part of it, right? And everybody around them, right? Because again, the whole goal is for all boats to rise, not just one boat. And sometimes that looks like losing. Sometimes you might, it might look like you lost, but you actually didn't. You actually didn't. You actually gained. Whether it was momentum from losing something that was kind of holding you back, as in my case when I was talking about the meditation, or, physically, like, um, someone doubting you, or, like people holding you back, and, naysayers, and, that always constantly, negative talk your dreams and your goals, right? Not the people who hold you accountable for what you do, but the ones who just talk about things like, like it's a problem. And so, on that note, I am going to go ahead and close down this podcast. I appreciate everybody who joined and listened and supported. You're so